You know what real gamers were doing on June 5th, 2025? We were playing our Nintendo Switch 2's, okay? We were playing Mario Kart, we were playing Street Fighter 6, we were playing like Welcome Tour, we were playing like Cyberpunk 2077. We were playing all these games that were available on the console day one. And there were a wide range of people who weren't doing that. We were seeing a bunch of YouTubers, a bunch of game journos, and a bunch of shills on Twitter doing everything they possibly can to talk down towards the Nintendo Switch 2. We've seen all sorts of things, allegations that games don't run well, that they don't play well, that there's something wrong with them, yada, yada. Yeah, we've all heard this, like, time and time and time again in regards to this console, that like this idea that it's not going to do well. And one of the really funny copes I saw, towards the end of the day was that a bunch of these people were going to Walmart and they were just like, oh no, there's a lot of units on the shelves. I guess Nintendo Switch isn't doing well. Never mind that Walmart seems to be the retailer that has stocked the most units, but like, just look around. Are you really going to argue that, like, Nintendo Switch 2 isn't doing well when, like, so many people are buying and enjoying the console, Like, I played, like, a lot of Mario Kart day one, I played Street Fighter, I played Welcome Tour, I enjoyed my console, and I will be getting a lot more mileage out of it in the future. So, this idea that people are trying to downplay this console and trying to say that it's a failure, it's just going to blow up in their faces in the most absurd way imaginable. Like, they really are, like, hinging all of their bets, all of their credibility on this idea that, like, the Switch 2, it won't do as well as the Switch 1, completely ignoring the fact that it doesn't have to. But it's remarkable seeing the lengths these people have gone to try and downplay the Switch. Complaining about the games, complaining about Mario Kart, complaining about, like, all this arbitrary nonsense, doing all this stuff to try and gaslight you, like, don't believe your lying eyes, ignore all the huge lines of people getting Switch 2's, ignore how many people are picking these things up, ignore, while I try and gaslight you into thinking the console, nobody's talking about it. It was sad. It was pathetic, and it really should be called out for what it is, as just a very blatant example of just how corrupt the gaming journalism sphere actually is. Like, how desperate they were to try and continue this narrative that Nintendo Switch was failing, or that it wasn't doing well, or that people weren't hyped for it. They are in for a very, very, very rude awakening over the next couple of years, especially in the PC space. Because now that I've actually played Switch 2 and I've seen the mouse and seen how good it is, specifically the fact that it is better than typical PC mice. Like, it's over. Like, PC gamers are just coping and seething about the Switch 2's like enduring success. They don't want to talk about, like, the backwards compatibility, how your entire Switch 1 library carried over to the Switch 2, how, like, the storefront is improving, how, like, there's just so many things you can do on Switch, while PC is becoming more and more limited all the time with, like, pirates and hackers going straight to prison. Right? Like, again, it's becoming more prevalent that, like, the entire farce of the PC master race is just collapsing all around us, and yet you have, like, a handful of, like, dedicated hardcore fanboys doing everything they possibly can to keep the narrative alive. And at this stage, that's the only group of people I'm seeing doing this. It's not Xbox fans, it's not PlayStation fans. It's like, I don't really see anybody spurging out about the Switch 2, trying to gaslight people into thinking it failed, other than PC gamers, right? These are the people who are just trying everything they can to, like, ruin this console launch for everyone, discourage people from picking it up, and deliberately lying to people about about like the console. You know, like a really good example of this is this idea that like, oh, you can build a gaming PC that's more powerful than a console, and it's just like you're gonna have to future-proof it. You know, you're gonna have to like keep maintaining it. You know, like PC is far more expensive in the long run than a console. You know, like PC gamers would dispute that because all of them are pirates, but like it is absolutely true. You know, it is more affordable, more cost effective to simply just get a console for video games and just stick with that. There's no reason to mess around with gaming PCs. And that's just the long and the short of it. And the simple fact of the matter is, like, these people aren't playing games at all. You know, these people aren't like excited about like the future of video games and like interested in trying out Mario Kart World or like experiencing the Switch 2. Like, they'll do everything they possibly can to downplay not only this Nintendo console, but all future Nintendo consoles. You know, just like they spent all of last generation downplaying the Nintendo Switch. And that's the big thing here. Going forward, like, and I know I'm not the only one doing this, but like, I won't be acknowledging these people anymore. You know, like, I have no respect for them. You know, like, what about them is even worth like acknowledging or even really talking about? You know, like, they deliberately tried misrepresenting the Switch 2's launch period as a failure for Nintendo, and trying to say all the games failed and that no one likes them and that Nintendo is doomed, and that's like the reality is so like is so different than to that narrative that like it's not something that like any serious fan is taking seriously. You know, no casual player is going to be listening to these people anyway. So what are they doing other than trying to validate their own bizarre worldview that PC gaming is superior and that Nintendo is like a relic of the past? You know, it's just a gigantic cope. I am disgusted by it. I've made this very clear several times over, like how much I detest the PC gaming community and like the YouTube commentary people and just like all of these like incel, like just basement dwelling weirdos. Like it's over. Okay, like you guys are going to see a severe drop off in support over the next couple of years as like the PC Master Race starts getting like becoming more unpopular. Once people start like making fun of you more openly, once it's more commonly understood like what you actually are, like your entire community is going to collapse. And even now, like a good chunk of like your loyal supporters are buying and enjoying Switch 2s. You know, like that's going to be how it starts, is that like the idea that like we have to boycott Nintendo, man, like it's just not going to go anywhere. It's not going to stick. And the Switch 2 is a really good example as to why.